Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's my pleasure to bring to you this month's City Manager's Report. And as we do, we'll jump into important dates. Not too many to keep track of for this month, but a couple important ones nonetheless. On September the 16th, we'll have our next City Council meeting. And what's important about that meeting is that that will also be the 2020 budget hearing meeting. So that's where we're asking for those in the community who have input or insights or comments, or questions about the budget, certainly come on out. We'll be debating the budget on that evening. Following that week, we'll have the North Dakota League of Cities annual conference in Bismarck. Several of you are registered. If you have not yet registered, please see myself or Tammy. We'll get you registered and make sure you have hotel accommodations for that conference as well. We will have a special City Council meeting on September 23rd. That will be the final adoption of the budget. It will be held in this room at 5:30 p.m. Of course, the Norsk Høstfest will happen that week as well, September 25th through the 28th. And I just wanted to make a quick side note here. The mayor didn't mention this in his report, but the mayor has cordially and warmly invited our friends from our sister city, Cheyenne, to the Høstfest and also to the city to continue the relationship building. We've been informed just recently that about 4 to 6 are currently planning. And there may be several others that will also plan to come over. So that's looking promising at the moment. They're in the middle of their election process, and that election process ends on September the 9th. So I see the mayor has a...
City Manager Barry, I just did take an email this afternoon. I have confirmation now of at least 10.
Oh, perfect.
That are coming from Cheyenne.
Excellent. So that's great. And my guess would be that there may be several more as well. Now, that does not count. Those are official, so that does not count all of the cultural artists and the musicians and all of the other folks that come all this distance to our community and share their talents and also sleep in hotels and those sorts of things as well. So that's really important. Finally, on September 30th, the Planning Commission will happen in this room at 5:30. There's a lot of construction going on. We get a lot of complaints this time of year. People are about fed up. It's late August, early September. They've endured most of the year. Unfortunately, we do as much as we can, as you all know, because once the snow flies, it's very difficult to construct after that. So there are a lot of things going on in our community, and we're asking a lot of our citizens and traveling public to bear with. So let's talk about a couple of these things. The flood control project, particularly phase 1, in and around the area of 4th and Broadway, that's 75% of the way open, at least that intersection. We're working to finish work in and around that area within the next week or two, and we hope that the entire area associated with that location will be complete, hopefully within this next month or so. The contractor is beginning to move on with underground work in other sections going eastbound on 4th Avenue, and about half the flood walls you've probably noticed are erected at this point in time, and that work will continue, as I mentioned, as long as we can with the construction window, or weather window, that is. New traffic impact is going to be coming, and that will be the intersection in and around 3rd Street and 5th Avenue. That'll be shut down for underground work, as I just mentioned, near the end of this week and early next week. So we'll try to work through that as quickly as we can. There will be detour signs and whatnot available for the traveling public, but just another area to kind of steer away from as work continues in and around the flood control project there. For phase 2 and phase 3, the first test of the Perkit pump station was conducted. We have 3 15,000 gallon per minute pumps that were tested and then pulled and then reinstalled. All the pumps work great, and that builds a lot of confidence knowing that we have great pumps. We have the pumps that are ready to go into action should we need it. So the contractor will open 16th Street for head-to-head traffic. Later this week. The closure there lasted, as you might recall, for about 4 weeks or so. Huge inconvenience to a lot of folks because it was a big detour in and around that area. Street maintenance continues. You may notice just this last week or so that there's quite a bit of work going on Broadway, particularly between Central Avenue and 20th Avenue Southwest. We're replacing concrete panels, curb, gutter, and other damaged infrastructure along the corridor. Right now, they're between Central and 11th, and as that project progresses, they'll move further south. And we imagine that this work will probably continue for the better part of this month, and as long as we can until we get the job done, again, given the weather window that we're talking about. The Safe Route to School project, or projects, I should say, is essentially complete with minimal work left, like tree planting and landscaping, those kinds of things. And the sidewalks are already being used, which is great. We wanted to have that done in time for the school season, and we did meet that. There's federal funding on that project at 80%, city funding at 20%. $85,000 was budgeted for 2019, and it's part of a larger program, Safe Routes to School program, managed and administered by the North Dakota Department of Transportation. The Carnegie Center has been under construction quietly for most of this summer and is finally nearing completion. The original bid price was $560,000, and cost to date is pushing about $634,000. That includes the engineering, though. You might recall that we had community facilities funds that were set aside in the tune of $550,000, and then we backfilled the remaining amount with some sales tax reserve funds. Our estimated total cost, we believe, when it's completely done and all the bills are paid for, will be about $595,000. The $634,000 was the adjusted budget that we had, so, and not cost to date. So if you look, the building looks beautiful. Just for those who didn't recall what we were dealing with here, we had a major foundation the compromised on the northwest. The foundation was compromised, and the building began to slough off and separate. That was huge. This building is a historic building for us, and is important to continue to maintain. A lot of events occur inside the building. So they had to essentially dig out underneath the building and replace the foundation, and then put all the brick back on, and it looks phenomenal. So was a great project. Looks amazing. If you haven't had an opportunity to drive by it, it's in great shape. Something we can all be proud of. It's been also some time since we've talked about the parking ramps, so I wanted to touch on a couple of subjects on the parking ramps. First of all, the maintenance activities. As you know, the city's for some time now been taking on all of the maintenance activities of the parking ramps, and we have staff in there about twice a day. And so there's a market improvement. We've noticed a lot of great compliments coming from folks who visit the ramps or have parking passes in the ramps, or downtown business professionals and whatnot, owners. It's something we have to constantly keep up on. They're a large maintenance commitment, but we are keeping up on that, and I think the ramps have never looked better. As you all know, the roof on each ramp is going to be constructed here over the next couple of months. We are attempting to place a temporary roof structure on top. That was approved by you last week or last council meeting. And so we're working with the contractor to implement that. And of course, this is all about protecting the structure. The structure has been without water protection, essentially a roof, ever since it was constructed. And there's quite a bit of damage that's occurring on the podium platform that we're trying to guard against and protect against. Additionally, cameras are being, we're going through some bids right now to determine what number and type of cameras we'd like to install in the parking ramps. There are a number of areas that we'd like to have surveillance on, including ingress and egress of the ramp itself for vehicles, and in addition, stairwell ingress and egress access. We're also evaluating street access for the commercial components. And at least at a minimum, we'd like to make sure that there's conduit for that if it was going to be added later. So right now, we're evaluating that work and evaluating bids. That will come back to you for approval at some other point in time. But we have the intention of trying to improve safety and security by adding a surveillance system inside the both parking ramps. Also, we're looking into signage. This would be exterior building signage, large, park here or public parking signs. My preference would be to have them kind of stick out from the side of the building, so that when you ride by, you don't have to look up into the side. They're actually front and center. So we're getting some quotes on that and going to evaluate the costs for that kind of signage. It will be tough on the P2 levels of each garage to put effective signing because, of course, you have to go down the alley before you can really kind of see anything. So we're talking about maybe some kind of signage on the corner where the alley is, so that would direct traffic into the P2 garage if that's needed for additional parking spaces. So we'll have more on that for you in the near future. Just wanted to update you quickly on the legal activities. We can't get too specific here other than to say that we are into the discovery process, as you know, with Cypress. And that process is drug on, I think, a little longer than most would like or have wanted. And so we are deep into that. We have over, I think we're approaching 10,000 documents at this point in time that have been either developed or circulated or studied or all of those things. We are slated for trial next July at this point in time. That was moved from earlier in the year. And of course, that's subject to change as well. So things are ongoing with that particular case at this point. And then we've seen a lot of questions and inquiries about, well, why doesn't the city think about building the city hall on top of the parking garages? Or why doesn't the city think about using the Big M building or the Wells Fargo building? Or why doesn't it do all these other things? And I just wanted to assure the public we are thinking about all of those things. So it's not like we're not thinking about that. We have a lot of things to evaluate, whether it be rehabilitation of existing buildings, construction, and tenant improvements of existing buildings or whatnot. There is a subcommittee that is working slowly on this. As you know, there are a lot of things involved, particularly in repurposing old buildings, especially old buildings that have been difficult to maintain to date. So we're looking at all of those kinds of things. There are no decisions, as you know, on the City Hall project at this point in time. The committee will continue to do its work, gather information, and present that to you for a decision forthcoming in the future. Moving on, the NDR, National Disaster Resiliency Program. We did have an August 15th town hall meeting. That was pretty well attended. There were a lot of good questions, a lot of feedback, and a lot of information that was presented. As was mentioned there, we are ranked third out of all of the grantees in current progress, which is good. We're also considered a model grantee. And the HUD has commonly referred other jurisdictions, both in the NDR program and also in standard CDBG or Community Development Block Grant programs, to the City of Minot for expertise. So that's great. A couple updates here I have for you on the bottom. The gathering space, the negotiation period still continues. Just a reminder for the community, the property negotiating deadline is September 30th of 2019. The family homeless shelter, that project is on track with Lutheran Social Services. It looks to be a very promising and exceptional project. And the property environmental assessment is expected this week, so we're hopeful that that comes out well and that the project can continue going forward. Also, the single-family housing area of the program, the Resilient Homebuyer Program, also known as the GAP Financing Program, is picking up steam. They are marketing young individuals that may have been in school during the flood, for potential home buyer assistance. There's been 20 applications received to date. 3 have been completed, and 2 others we just picked up from the NDR town hall meeting that we had a week or 2 or so ago. So that's promising. There are a couple of task forces that I've developed inside of the city internally. One of them is a recruitment task force. As you know, last year we put our time and effort to studying retention issues with the city and the city staff and workforce, and we did surveys, and we had a number of different meetings on that, and presented an improvement program for you to consider, which you did approve, and we've had remarkable success to date in reducing the turnover and improving retention. So now what we're trying to do is turn our sights to recruitment. What we've noticed is that there are a lot fewer people applying for jobs when we have them available, and there are a lot fewer qualified candidates. So we're trying to essentially study the process and see if it's a flaw in the process or if there are otherwise opportunities for improvement in the process, what the general issues are surrounding recruitment, and essentially what the the market and job trends are, and some of the conventional wisdom in and around recruitment. There are several members, including Alderman Pittner, who sit on this, our HR director, the two chiefs, and our public information officer. We've had probably 3 or 4 meetings so far, and there are probably about that many needed to continue this work, and we hope to have some recommendations and some kind of report generated here in the next couple of months. Also, we've been working on a community engagement strategy, and this is another task force, if you will, focus group that we've developed internally that is studying community engagement strategies and approaches, evaluating kind of what we've done in the past, opportunities for improvement. We are well on our way to presenting this to you here in the near future. We have developed a draft strategy or engagement plan that has been reviewed with the focus group. We're now going to be putting the finishing touches on that and send it out as a final draft to the focus group for one last review. Then it'll go to the department directors for review, and then we'll get the final draft over to you here hopefully soon for you to see kind of what we've been up to and why that work is so important. So that's been good work that we've been working on here. Also, we just developed a buy local preference task force. You may recall that a proposal from the Maximize Minot Committee of the Minot Area Chamber of Commerce was delivered to you, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks or so ago. I've sat with the chamber president, and we've agreed to create a task force. On the city side, we'll have Alderman Olson, myself, the finance director, and city attorney on the task force, and then the chamber president and a few of his leaders, probably from the Maximize Minot Committee or the chamber in general, will also be participating. What our intent here is to try to evaluate buy local preference opportunities and stand them up against state and federal procurement laws and see if there aren't opportunities for making some viable recommendation for a local option or a buy local preference. All of this will be presented to you. There'll be no decisions made. We're just sort of a recommending group. We'll take the burden of trying to evaluate all the issues and come up with possible solutions. And then with that, as I say, hopefully be able to make a unified recommendation. And if not, there's areas that we disagree. The chamber president and I have agreed to just present those to you, and then you can weigh in, of course, as decision makers on how you want to go. So that's all great news. Also, there's a new sheriff, not really sheriff, but emergency manager in town. You all may know Jennifer Weichman. I've met with her and outlined the city's goals and objectives with emergency management. We've had several meetings with Jennifer and some of the other staff with inside the city. We're trying to focus on improving the relationship as well as information sharing between the two bodies. It looks like that's going well. And then we're also talking about various modifications to operational processes which would allow for streamlined communication and improvements in the way that we work between the two agencies. So that's exciting. Last, I wanted to highlight a couple of employees that have done exceptionally well. Margie Zietz was awarded the Chamber Eagle Award for Outstanding Customer Service. We've had several throughout the year, and I haven't been as diligent as I would like in recognizing them. I know Rick Feltner, our airport director, got one, and I think 1 or 2 other staff members did as well. So I just wanted to say thanks to Margie for all of her work and for being recognized, and also to the chamber president, John McMartin, and his team for making these, this awareness and making the award possible. We're very much appreciative. As well, Kevin Turnus, our city assessor, was nominated by the Board of Realtors as the Realtor Affiliate of the Year. It's quite a big nomination. It's a huge honor to have someone of his caliber work for the city, and I think you'll recognize and agree with me that as a professional that is often sought out by a number of different realty related activities. He is an expert that we have on staff, and we're very, very lucky to have him. So congratulations to Kevin also. With that, I have nothing further for you. I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Alderman Straight, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom, I had approached you and maybe the mayor while the mayor was away about the lease at the Carnegie.
Yes.
And for my colleagues here and at least the general public, it's my understanding that the lease at the Carnegie runs through 2021. But my point in bringing it up now, Tom, is I would like us to look into the rate of that lease. I know we had our airport director before us a couple of weeks ago with a very hot button discussion about rent and lease agreements and costs and fair market value discussion. And I think it's only prudent if we pump community facility funds into the Carnegie that we should get a better return, and we should just have a fair operating practice for lease agreements. I'm also going to be very transparent that I've been approached by one of the subcommittees that I sit on that the nonprofit would like to move into the Carnegie, and so that's the reason why I bring it up today, just in all transparency, that I think that if the city is going to rent out that property, we should be getting something more back in terms of a rental agreement that could help offset some of these costly renovations.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Stray, thank you. I think that is something that we're kind of stuck with until 2021 because the lease is clear. It is $1 per year rent, essentially. We do own the building. I think most people know that. Also, we own the building. So the investment made into the building was a sound investment, I believe, since we are the owners. And of course, you as a council can decide what you want to do when that lease comes due in 2021, unless, something changes in the interim. So, but thank you very much, and we'll make sure that that's something that's brought forward when the lease does expire.
Any further questions for City Manager? Thank you, Tom.
Great, thank you.
That takes us to number 5.